Recently, I was reading some manga on a legally questionable site and got hit with a fresh dose of anxiety and cosmic dread. Not because it was late at night and I just ate a sugary snack like usual, you disgusting dumpster creature, but because I was reading Junji Ito. It's honestly surprising I have to tell you this, but Junji Ito is very good at making horror manga. His stories give me the bejeebers every single time, without fail. Even if I reread them, it's crazy. They do this thing where they get stuck inside my skull and keep lurking there for the next week or so. It's really uncomfortable. The best examples of this are Uzumaki and The Enigma at Amigara Fault. After I finished Uzumaki for the first time, I saw spirals around me for days. It got to a point where I sometimes weirded myself out by noticing things that I would never have otherwise. A bit later I talk about Uzumaki a bit more in depth, stick around for that. As for the short story, that all builds up to one big reveal, and if anyone tells you they weren't at least a bit frightened by that one, they're lying, trust me. I get that anticipating feeling every time I read something made by Junji Ito. It feels weird because it almost is like a jump scare. This might be a bit confusing. Some of you are probably wondering how you can jump scare someone in a manga, the same as you do in a movie. Proper setup makes Ito's jump scares a lot more effective though. Ito uses the very nature of manga to scare you. Let me explain. Each time you turn the page in a manga, everything on the next two is revealed in full. Every horrifying, disgusting drawing hits you like a truck, and Chekhov's gun. No need for flickering imagery, sudden sound effects or zooms. But the horror in Ito's work goes deeper than this simple trick. There are a few themes Ito regularly explores in his mangas. In my opinion, a big one is inevitability. This fits his style of building up to a reveal with heavy foreshadowing. I will illustrate my point with two examples, Uzumaki and Hellstar Ramina. In broad strokes, we know where those stories are leading to, so we are petrified of the conclusion. Some light spoilers in the next part. If you really don't want to see them, skip to time on screen. Quick catch up. Uzumaki is set in a small village at the coast. An eldritch force in the form of a spiral is slowly taking over the town and its inhabitants. Here, the spiral is another symbol of this theme, as it can only lead inward to a single point. There is no other outcome. Or towards, yeah? I know, shut it. When we find out about Shuichu's dad, we know what's going to happen. He turns into a lollipop. Same goes for his wife. Come on, dude, don't ignore me. Anyway, no matter what anyone does, what's going to happen could never be avoided. Once do we see someone fighting back effectively, when Shuichu frees Kiri from her hair-based curse, making him the only useful character. This small victory means nothing in the end though. In Hellstar, the themes are just as depressing. A murder planet from outside. A murder planet? Yes, a murder planet. No, don't ask. So, a murder planet from outside this universe is slowly consuming everything in the solar system and heading for Earth. Even though the themes are similar, the two are not equivalent. This inevitable doom affects the story in very different and very interestingly different ways. Hellstar has a strong focus on how desperate people look for an escape, even in the most absurd places. Killing the astronomer who first observed the planet isn't going to stop it dead in its tracks. And even when it doesn't, they still give chase to his daughter just because he named the thing after her. For everyone that jumped ahead, here's the spoiler-free version. Ito uses the theme of inevitable demise to instill a feeling of dread within the reader. This dread can come from the fight against the deterministic universe itself, from how fucked humans get when they are truly desperate. All of this is mostly implemented with a thick slice of body horror. And sometimes it's just a personal fear of his, like being creeped out by sea life.
Robot, zombie, fishes, and gyo. What's the inspiration for that?
あれはもともとサメが怖かったんですよね。スピルバーグのジョーズ見て以来サメが怖かったんですけど、海に入らない限り 怖くないんですけど、それが陸に上がってきちゃったら余計怖いなと思って、まずその辺から陸にサメが上がってくるっていうところから始まってですね、でそこからいろいろ発展させていってあんなような話になりました。
Because of the themes, most of Ito's characters are usually depressed or mentally unstable. Unless of course they're bolting it for their lives, then of course it's a little harder to focus on your mental state. What struck me as interesting is that his protagonists are rarely the most interesting. Shuichi is my favorite character in Uzumaki, but almost never is the story told from his perspective. I find him interesting because even though he has the most foresight on what is going to happen, he still manages to keep on going and keep resisting till the very end, knowing it is essentially futile. Here he reacts in a very rational and understandable way. She's skeptical at first, but after seeing some shit, she quickly gets with it and stops wondering whether or not she's getting crazy and just focuses on survival. Other than that, she really doesn't have a lot going for her. The same can be said about Remina. The only time the protagonist is really what keeps you there is when they go batshit insane. In the Enigma of Amigara Fault, Owaki is fascinated by a hole in the rock that perfectly conforms to his body. Why he doesn't hippity-hoppity off of that mountain at that exact moment is beyond me, but alright. After spending around a day and a half there, he gets bewitched by the hole. It pulls him in closer and closer until he strips naked and enters it. After finishing the story, I spend a while pondering what I would have done in Owaki's situation. I don't want to think about it. In conclusion, if you're looking to scratch that Lovecraftian-esque, cosmic kind of horror part of your brain, full of disgusting, vile mutilations and body horror, I would highly recommend anything by Junji Ito. But don't come crying about weeing yourself in the comments. You puss!